Hey, Soraya, remember me?
Hey, Jeff, remember me?
I do remember you. I miss doing this.
Oh my gosh. It was, it's been a minute.
Yeah, yeah, it
A
has. We've been busy.
lot has happened.
Yeah. Summer
A
break, we've been doing a lot of stuff.
lot of things going on, a lot of things happening, but it's really, really nice to see you and be back doing this.
Yes, I'm very excited. More excited because we had a call yesterday with an old friend of ours.
Yes, the
And it
person
re
I like to call Il Padrino of the Paisley Stage podcast, Matt Pucci, none
yeah.
other than Matt Pucci from Rain Parade.
And we had a call with him because we're going to discuss one of the releases from Rain Parade, their self-released Demolition CD. So I say we jump into it and start talking about this.
Let's go. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
A podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy. All right, so before we jump into Demolition, I'm really bummed that I missed the Dream Syndicate when they came to LA. It's a
That
bummer.
was two of us that
Mm.
had to miss that.
Ugh.
But
I'm still enjoying their latest album that we covered. That's great. And Long Riders are coming next month. And again, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be in North Carolina for all three shows that they're doing in California, which is a
I'll
drag.
be at one of them. I'll be
Yeah.
at the one at Venice West. But yeah, there's a plus and a minus, and I'm sure our listeners are going through the same as us. It's, now that shows are starting to ramp up again, other things are also starting to ramp up again. Other sorry, I can't stop thinking in Spanish, compromisos, but other like, things that you have to do, friends and family. So, and believe it or not, Jeff, we're in October of 2022.
That's crazy.
And the year is just and but we were both really sad to miss Dream Syndicate, but looking forward to other things and not just other things, but also new releases. And if you've been following Steve Wynn's social media, if you've been following Rain Parade's social media,
Long Riders?
Long Rider social media, there's a lot of activity going on. I mean, we just mentioned three, and there are so many others. There's a lot of good music and good shows to look forward to.
Absolutely.
And Dream Syndicate's in Europe right now, and I mean, go to their shows, and documentary about Dream Syndicate's coming out. I mean, there's all this stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of shows and Dream Syndicate, how cool was it, Soraya, that you noticed who was sitting behind us at the Roxy Music Show when we went to see Roxy at the Forum?
When we went to seats that were not our own. Yeah.
Would we do
Yeah.
that?
So Jeff, his lovely wife, Christina, myself, and a friend of ours, John Diorio, we were trying to find a different perspective. And we walk into a random section, sit down like we own the place, and who walks in and sits behind us but the one and only Dennis Stuck?
Yes. And Juan Gomez, both of Human Hands.
Exactly, and Juan.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah,
It was fun,
very
and
cool.
Jeff had spoken to both of them on another podcast, so they had lots of shop talk.
Yeah, and I should add that the seats that we were given were not the seats that we paid for, so we weren't totally in the wrong trying to get seats like we originally paid for. But I don't know what happened. There was a glitch with Ticketmaster or something.
Look, if you go to an arena show, and the Forum is an arena here in Los Angeles, if you go to an arena show and you don't try and sneak into a different seat, have you really been to the show?
Good point. Good point.
Just a thought. Just a thought. But we digress.
Yes, yes. So the topic for today, Rain Parade, Demolition. So we did find out a little bit about why this was released, right? So it was in response. There was the band's response to multiple bootlegs.
Okay.
I have all of those. But
Okay, so before we get started, I
okay,
want to share a couple of things because I've got a good segue.
okay,
So Demolition is one of these, if you're a Rain Parade fan, it's one of these albums that's hard to get your hands on. Okay, it's a tough find.
a physical
Um,
copy. Yeah,
a physical copy. I mean, and I mean the band has put it out on Bandcamp, so it is available
yes,
through their own hands. But I want to share these two quotes because I thought they were just so good and they're like a neat bridge to our discussion. So first, I love to go searching for blog posts and like comments on videos because I tend to find real fun things there. So on one blog that I found that's called Only the Lonely.
I've
Only
never heard.
But in talking about Rain Parade, there's this one quote towards the end, and the author says, the first half of Demolition is comprised of an alternate, quote, as originally intended, end quote, version of Crashing Dream, which, if nothing else, suggests that Rain Parade were not as eager to leave their psych rock roots behind as the overproduced island versions seem to indicate. We can talk a little bit more about that. As the true epitaph, now this is where I have a problem because it's like they're putting them in the ground way before their time.
Wow.
As the true epitaph to this legendary LA band, Demolition is both a revelation and a further reason to grieve over the untimely demise of a band that deserved a much better fate. Now, uh, uh, I think this person really overshot, like calling for the band's death before it even happened, and we already know that that's not the case. But I think it makes a point that Demolition gives us a glimpse of what Crashing Dream could have been. And you and I have talked about Crashing Dream ourselves, and we've talked about it with, very generously with Matt Pucci and with Stephen Roback. So we know this is an album that, it showed a shift, but Demolition kind of brought us back into the spirit of it. But Jeff, I got to share this one with you. Okay, different blog post. So the person who writes this blog post, and it's the name of the blog is called The Llama Workshop.
Okay.
And the guy who wrote it is called Patrick Lundborg. And so he's talking about European fans,
Okay.
right? But I think the spirit is there. So he says, the band that gathered the most devoted, or at least the most verbose admirers across the ocean, was also the one most profoundly steeped in psychedelic 60s influences. We all liked the Long Riders, Green on Red, and 3 O'Clock, but we absolutely loved Rain Parade. The songwriting talent of Matt Pucci and the Roback brothers seemed as strong as any of their fellow scenesters, but the Rain Parade went much deeper and more fearlessly into the acid past. While the other bands might insert a psyche tune, Narcolepsy, Happened, And She Rides, into their modern indie guitar rock, Rain Parade seemed psychedelic to the bone. And they did it so damn well. It wasn't just a case of hearing It's All Too Much and Porpoise Song in their music, but also to face the stunning realization that things like This Can't Be Today and No Easy Way Down were every bit as good as the old masterpieces. In this achievement, Rain Parade were unique to their era, to almost any era.
Wow.
So now here's the kicker. This guy then links to file shares for all these bootleg live shows.
Wow.
So he praises the band and then just adds all these bootlegs. But the one piece of gold that he adds in this blog is he scans the earliest write-ups on Rain Parade from Bucketful of Brains.
Oh, nice.
So let me read you this one last quote, and I'm going to stop here.
No.
So this it was an article where they looked at numerous bands from the Paisley Underground, and the author ends with Rain Parade. And then the author adds a quote from an American who contributed to that piece. And he says, and the American who added to the piece, name is Chip Lamey. And he adds this quote: Matt introduced himself to Dylan, Bob Dylan, at the 3 o'clock show, and Dylan said he'd drop in on their final sessions. Who knows what could have happened? Maybe these young bands will give Dylan a good kick in the ass. But okay, so this write-up was from 1983, so it
Wow.
was first single. It was like first single, first album. But I was howling when I read this because I go, there's a lot of love for Rain Parade, in Europe, and I think you and I have talked about it. Rain Parade is a band that we love and that puts out really good music. And in this scene, we had some amazing bands come out of this scene. And Rain Parade is one of the ones that people tend to sleep on. I'm not saying everyone, but I say, some people go, oh yeah, Rain Parade, but they'll highlight another band. But these three quotes were a kick, but it was that idea of devoted fandom, and then a lot of the write-ups about Demolition. Because okay, so I say all this to say the bootlegs have been shared, reshared, shared. I mean, there's a lot of file sharing sites
Yeah.
for these bootlegs for live shows. And then we get to this bridge. So in talking with Matt Pucci, we find out that Demolition was a response to which beautiful bootleg, Jeff?
Well, yeah. Welcome to Paisley Land, he said.
Yeah.
Specifically.
I will just quote here. Don't come for us. Quote. Yeah, it was that LP Welcome to Paisley Land comes out, which is awful. So we decided we're just gonna empty the vaults. We're just gonna take everything we've got and just throw it out there, and we get Demolition. Okay,
Absolutely.
19 tracks, 19 tracks on Demolition. You can't shake a finger at that. So they just said, "Oh, you're gonna do it? No, no, no. We're gonna do it. Here you go." All right.
Band is in control.
Why not?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Super cool.
Okay, so let's kind of dig into Demolition. So when is it put out?
1991, and they released it themselves on 090 Records, which I believe that's the same label that the Helene's was released
Right.
on. Yeah, so I mean they've been using that record label, and I think it's they're working with friends of the band,
Mhm.
so it's kind of self-released, kind of like a friends label kind of thing. So 1991 on physical format CD. Um, and as you mentioned, you can get it now on their Bandcamp site for $7, I think, for 19 songs. Come
Yeah.
on. And we may have news about an additional release because this is, like you said, it's difficult to find and it's kind of pricey, but they may be remastering it and re-releasing it in physical format at some point. We'll see. We'll see.
One can only hope. It was,
Yeah.
and here's the great thing is they have all these things that can be worked on, and there's a desire to let people hear it and hear it in the way that it should be heard.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep. So then we also have learned that a lot of these are demos, specifically for Crashing Dream, right? Prior to moving to Island, and we'll talk about that
right.
after I play the first song. And then there's some live tracks that of songs that we're working on, and there may be a connection to the new album from one of these tracks, these live tracks.
Right.
But I say we dip into some music and then talk a little bit more later. I
All
picked one.
right.
Go ahead.
I want you to start.
Oh, cool. Um, I picked one of the demos for the Crashing Dream album, and as you mentioned in one of the quotes that you had, some of these versions are really cool compared to the more polished Island version, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I went with Mystic Green. Um, I, I, as you mentioned, we had talked to Steven, Matt, and Thoman about Crashing Dream, and they had some opinions about Crashing Dream, but I love that album. I understand some overproduction concerns, but the songs are great, and Mystic Green is no exception. This is one of my favorite demos from Demolition. So, as far as music on today's episode, we're starting with Mystic Green. So, from 1991 Demolition, here's the demo for Mystic Green.
Half the world is sleeping, leaving all of us behind. Speeding shadows on the misty green, farther from our homes than before. Half a moon behind us, pulling empty tides of broken names. Wait for morning show and tired eyes. Flowers will spring from every grave. Carry along all that your heart can keep. Burning the dawn out of the misty green. Half the world is sleeping, leaving all of us behind. With the morning show and tired eyes, flowers will spring from every grave. Flowers will spring from every grave. Carry along all that your heart can keep. Burning the dawn out of the misty
I love that version.
You
So,
know, and a lot of write-ups about Demolition or, fan commentary, Mystic Green is the track that people always pick. They say, this is like the shining example of the beauty of Rain Parade in this demo version. I mean, you hear all the beauty of the things that are synonymous with the Rain Parade. You hear these great guitars, amazing melodies, and really well written songs.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the song is definitely a more raw version. The band
Yes.
recorded this as a demo, and we know and we've learned that the band is pretty particular about their studio recordings, which is why their new album will be coming out next year, not this year. And they've been working on it for, I think Matt said, 2 years now. So the band definitely concentrates on what they record in the studio version. So this is great just to hear like this raw version, but it's pretty. I mean, the arrangement, the parts are pretty close to what was released on the final version. So I did want to
Yeah.
mention that we did learn before in our conversation that the band wasn't, as they look back, they don't really look back with fondness that they moved from Enigma to Island, and they moved away from their producer that they always worked with, Jim Hill, who we had the opportunity to talk with in his studio a couple years ago. And the band definitely considers him as a band member. He's the
Yeah.
producer, and he'll be producing, or he is producing, their new record. But that's one regret that they had with the Crashing Dream album when they moved from Enigma, is that Jim Hill was not invited to be the producer from the label. That wasn't a
Right.
band decision, and that's something that they regret. But it is cool hearing this demo version, and hearing, as your quote mentioned, that what it could have sounded like had it not have been overproduced. So,
Right.
anyways,
And it's funny, on a YouTube page, someone commented, if these were demos, they are better than the album versions to me.
yeah, I saw that
And
quote too.
it's just, but I think that's what's really interesting about Demolition is we get to hear something different. And yeah, I mean, there are things that point in the same direction, but there are different takes and different stylings that we hear in
Yeah,
these demos. And I think that's what you can, as a fan, you can appreciate about an album like Demolition.
yeah, absolutely. Very cool. All right, Soraya, your first pick.
All right. Mine is My Dog's Last Dream. So in talking with Matt Pucci, what we found out is that this is a song about Stephen Roebuck's dog Skipper.
Oh,
But it's a great song. So let's play it. My Dog's Last Dream.
All the dogs are in their yards, howling at the fires on the moon. I was happy to be astray, wondered how I got to be that way. Dark clouds rolling in my sun.
Very cool.
I just like that track so much, and it's really the guitars that really jump out at me. All that kind of playing and a lot of you kind of hear that kind of fuzzy tone. You hear that kind of warpy sound, and then you've got Steven.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Steven Roback is so good, and I like everything about this song. What
Yeah.
about you? What you thought?
It's super. I love the vibe of this, and it's so Steven to me, like you mentioned. And the song is only it's only the two of them, Matt and Steven, and Matt is playing bass and guitar, and Steven's playing guitar and singing. So pretty
I
cool.
just
Just
think
have
that's
two,
cool.
and of course some kind of drum machine track going. But yeah, I thought this was very cool. It's a very vibey song. I would have liked to have a studio version of this.
We can only ask.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can put in our request.
Other than a demo version, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Jeff. What's next?
The longest song on Demolition is Crashing Dream, which interestingly enough was not a song that made the Crashing Dream
Thank
album.
you.
But yeah, but it's the Crashing Dream lineup, and this is a live recording of Crashing Dream that they did in 1984 at the Decade in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The credits note, and it's to me this is totally Rain Parade when you hear like the guitars playing and the singing and the melodies. So I wonder why it didn't make the Crashing Dream album. I don't know if it was too long for Island or what happened, but again, this is a live version. And I did want to know, just because the thought popped into my head that Pat Thomas, our friend Pat Thomas, does the liner notes for Demolition. So anyway, so here's Crashing Dream.
Thanks a lot. We had a lot of fun.
Yay! So I like
It's
Will.
so good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Kind of drony. I like Will Glenn's organ part. I'm assuming that's Will Glenn. I know he was playing during the set, but just holding down that drone and
Yeah.
the guitar parts that they laid over, just very, very cool live song. And again, why did Crashing Dream not make the Crashing Dream album?
And let me tell you, a lot of the comments that I read online ask, fans ask the same question. I can't believe this didn't make it there. I don't know. Maybe that's a follow-up question that we can ask the band.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
something tells me that may have been a studio decision, but
Yeah,
or sorry, a
label.
label decision.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Round it out. Unreleased track, but this is a great track. Novocaine. Let's go.
Shockwave like a heart attack. In the fields and on the tracks. Running hard from the hate of love. Drinking blood from freedom's cup. I don't want to feel the pain. Shoot me up with cocaine. Tip a smile on a Cadillac. After feeling one-eyed jacks. There's no turning back from here. Once the bullet's in your ear, like the opportunity, shoot me home from outer space. I don't want to feel the pain. Shoot me up with no pain. Ride me off the trail of hate, shoot me home to outer space. I don't want to feel the pain, shoot me up with no pain.
Psychedelic.
Thank you. This track is amazing.
It is amazing.
Guitar, I mean, the whole vibe of this song, and then it's so powerful to me. Unreleased.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm glad that in whatever fit of inspiration and rage, I guess, I don't know, to give us these tracks and say, here, because there are 4 unreleased tracks, correct? 4
I think you're right.
that
yeah.
are on, that are here. And they're worth every minute of your time to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I did want to throw in before we say goodbye, Got the Fear, one of those tracks is we learned that is, I don't know if I want to say that it's going to be on the new album, but they recorded a version of Got the Fear, and hopefully it'll make it. I think we were told they recorded about 13 tracks, and they're
Yeah.
trying to decide what's going to make the album and what's not. Hopefully Got
Yeah.
the Fear is one of those. I think 10 to 12 tracks, so there may be like a bonus track, and one of the bonus tracks, a 10-minute song by John Thoman,
Why not?
being a guitar beast as he is.
Why not?
Yeah, why
Because
not?
John Thoman is ridiculous on that guitar.
Yeah.
And if you've watched them live, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you haven't, he's just a master on that guitar. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, the band has 3 amazing guitar players, and I was wondering if you could share Matt's thoughts about Derek C. And his guitar playing, and at his comparison with David Roback, right? I know there was.
Yeah, one of the things that in our conversation with Matt was, he said one of the great, he said Derek C is all over this album that they're working on, and he said it's as if he were the second coming of David Roback.
Wow.
But when you think about it, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is when he said we were working out a part and there was something that just needed to be worked out. So I handed Derek my Gretsch. And he said, and it was as if intuitively he knew what needed to be done. And he just grabbed it, went with it. And he said, that's it. That's it. That's what this needed. And that the synergy and the chemistry has been really nice. This is something that Jeff and I have remarked upon because we've seen Rain Parade with Derek C in this lineup. It's just really interesting because they all work so well together, and it is kind of intuitively, they understand what the other one needs, and they kind of enter and exit with a ton of ease.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was neat.
Yeah,
It was really neat.
And that doesn't always happen with 3 guitar players that play at the level that they play at. So yeah, and
Exactly.
and we've seen pictures of Derek C holding that Gretsch on
Yes.
social media, so that's pretty cool too.
Look, it's always good to see them working so well together. And Derek C, Derek C adds, adds another component to this band. And we know Rain Parade continued to produce and make music and do things, and David Roback was working on his own projects and making his music and doing his things, and it's just good to see that there's no time or musical steps lost with the band, and they're continuing to discover their sound. And
so looking back, Rain Parade Demolition, 19 tracks. You can get it on the band's Bandcamp page, $7 for all 19 songs for digital download. And there may be a version coming up here soon on a remastered version physically. And looking forward, the band has a new album that should be out springtime of next year. So we're looking forward to that.
Lots of good things to look forward to.
Absolutely.
So go get it. Bandcamp, Rain Parade,
yes,
Demolition.
Absolutely.
All right. So, mi gente, a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people.
We came in right under 40 minutes. Okay, did what I say about Derek being the second coming of Derek, that's what he said yesterday.
Yep. No, yeah.
Did it sound assholey?
No, I didn't think so.
But what I don't want our Opal fans to come for our heads
Yeah.
is David Roback is a saint
Yeah.
to them.